Robert Dameron, we have got to start with that monster drive on 18 because it was absolutely clutch. And, fair to say, Dustin's play off the tee wasn't the reason I would say that he won the Travelers Championship over the weekend. He had that out of bounds tee shot on 13. How that drive on 15 didn't go in the water, I will never, ever know. But the fact that he was able to stand up there on 18, deliver the goods, what does that tell you about how strong he is mentally?
I think he's tougher and a little more clutch than we give him credit for. It is easy to go back and remember some of his failures, sometimes that he didn't close the show. But you don't get to 21 wins without being something special, something great. And if you want to look at this drive specifically, you know what this tells me? There's a ton of hype around Bryson, and rightfully so. Bryson's done everything to earn all the attention he's gotten. I think if I had to put my money on somebody to just sit down and air it out, I still think DJ, given a little bit of time, could sling it past Bryson pretty easily. Give me that athleticism and those really long arms, maybe a Finau also, and that guy can really generate some speed when he has to. And unlike Bryson, he doesn't use it all the time. He's long enough just with his off-speed pitch and trying to get it in the fairway, which he usually does pretty well. Just had a couple squirrely ones left, yesterday on the back nine.
Yeah, it was impressive because I remember when he was standing over it, I was nervous. My first thought was, watch out on the left side, just because we'd seen that as the miss over the course of the previous couple of holes. This obviously fit his eye a little bit differently, the different shot shape than was required of that on the 13th hole. But for Dustin Johnson, I will always go back to Oakmont in the U.S. Open when we're talking about driving, and he put it on an absolute clinic in precision, in keeping the ball in the fairway and taking driver when other players weren't, even though he was longer than other players. I think he can be fearless with that club when he's at his best. So for that reason, in some ways, I was not surprised at what he was able to do on the 18th hole, because we've seen it before from Dustin Johnson. His driver can be such a weapon.
No, with Paige, absolutely no doubt about it. You remember the drive he hit in the playoff against Jordan Spieth at Northern Trust a few years ago when he took a line that no one else in the field took, and then statistically, he and Rory have easily been the best drivers of the ball of the last half a dozen years or so, at least. So imagine that wasn't even his strongest weapon this week, and it was a little bit off for him, and he still wins this way. That's if he gains a little bit of that putter momentum and confidence, because he putted tremendously this week. He doesn't have to drive it quite as well. And then when the driver is really good, like at Oakmont, he can win by 8 or 9 again.
It's been 16 months since DJ has been in the winner's circle. And to hear DJ say that he was feeling the nerves, this is a man who we don't really get much emotion from. This is the first time he's been in the mix, in contention on a Sunday for a long time, Paige. The fact that, again, he was able to step up in an environment that he hasn't been in for a while, what does that show you about him?
Talent is never lost. It just may be forgotten. When players that have achieved great things fall off, that they never lose that experience. They never lose the ability to kind of conjure up what it takes mentally to get it done. And I think what we've seen from Dustin Johnson over the course of his career, whether it's amateur or professional, is he knows how to win. He's comfortable in that environment. Even though he says that he was feeling it a little bit, he's still able to kind of stay steady mentally, stay focused, and slow down his mind or his body in order to achieve that. I always think of that when I watch his walk. He has such a distinctive way that he kind of walks around the golf course. To me, it looks like it's somewhat in slow motion. I think in a lot of ways, when you're able to move your body in a slow, smooth way, you're able to work that way within your mind as well. And I think DJ does that beautifully.
I thought it was funny in The Sound with George Savarikas. The first question he asked DJ was, how are you able to steady your emotions? And I thought, well, he just doesn't have any. I mean, how do you not steady them if you don't have any? So, but deep down he does. It was good to hear DJ kind of say, I was a little rattled, because I think if you polled the other players on the PGA Tour and say, what attribute does DJ have golf-wise that you would like to have? And I think it's that steadiness, the ability to not have highs and lows, the ability to three-putt the final hole, 72nd hole at Chambers Bay, and come back and win the next U.S. Open, because it just rolls off your back. That kind of thing could really, really set another player back. And DJ just doesn't have that gear. So even with the by his standards, poor play over the last year or so, he knew what to do and didn't get ahead of himself, even with a couple bad shots. He knows what he's doing on the golf course. He knows how to win. And again, he showed that steady demeanor down the stretch.
One of the
You
other
mentioned
things,
that
Robert,
interview.
that impressed me. Sorry, one of the other things that impressed me this week, Anna and Robert, was just his ability to adjust and adapt. I think we weren't giving him a lot of credit moving into this week based on his previous performance over the last several weeks. And I think a lot of it had to do with the putter. And before this week began, he was reportedly trying out six different putters until he fell on the one that he ultimately did, this TaylorMade putter. And a lot of credit to him to be able to have confidence in a new golf club that he put in his bag. He was 134 in strokes gained putting heading into this week on the PGA Tour, and he was 4th this week in this tournament. I was incredibly impressed by some of the putts he was making early in the week. I know we even saw it on Thursday on Morning Drive as we were watching the PGA Tour live look-ins, just how well he was rolling the putter. So a lot of credit to him, too, to have the confidence to be able to change equipment and put it in play and know that it can work for him.
The putter was an absolute weapon for DJ over the weekend, and that is absolutely for sure. And Robert, you mentioned George's interview there, and he asked DJ about his desire to return back to world number one. Now, last week, DJ turned 36 years of age. He dropped out of the world's top 5 for the first time since 2016. And quite frankly, for some of us, the alarm bells were ringing. Well, I think DJ got the last laugh. He's back at world number 3 now. From what you guys saw from him over the week, and Robert, particularly on that putting, managing to really turn that around over the week, are you convinced that he's going to be able to find that ability to start rivaling the consistency that we've seen from the likes of Rory McIlroy and start putting on the chase back to world number one?
No, he was as consistent as Rory McIlroy before Rory McIlroy came and became so consistent. And yes, I'm pretty sure if he putts like this, he's going back to number 1 in the world. There's just really no doubt about it. But maybe this was just a super hot week with a new putter and everything clicked. He can't go back to putting poorly the way he did before. But again, with all the weapons he's got, and again, deep down, he doesn't look like anything's burning, anything's going on. But deep down, there has to be, because it cannot be coincidence that, like you said, for the first time in 4 years, he fell out of the top 5 in the world. 1 week later, the very next week, he wins. There's sometimes, where there's smoke, there's fire. And I'm pretty sure there's a little fire under DJ, even though he doesn't show it.
No, I actually appreciated the interview that he gave with George and just the kind of sense of humor that he had, not, admitting that he didn't want the delay to happen, that he felt uncomfortable moving out there. I think we're actually starting to see maybe a little more vulnerable DJ in some of these interviews that he's given, and a sense of humor as it comes to his golf game. But it's been impressive to watch him play throughout his career. I was one of the ones that was doubting kind of where he was at right now, because we hadn't seen a lot of form. We hadn't seen a lot of fire, as you say, Robert. So it was a pretty impressive week, and I think a turnaround week, and one that brings his name back into the conversation for the remainder of the year.
It was an absolute landmark win for Dustin Johnson. This now continues his winning streak of 13 consecutive seasons winning. Now, that's a feat matched by only Tiger Woods, Arnold Palmer, and Jack Nicklaus. He is an absolute fine company. Is there an element to DJ's game that is underappreciated, guys, that you think, Paige, has allowed him to continue this streak? As you can see, only few legendary players in the game have been able to achieve.
I think Robert already touched on it today, and that is just his ability to stay in the present. He never seems to be too bothered by what has happened. He never seems to get too far ahead of himself. That's a quality every single golfer tries to achieve. It's a quality that very few golfers actually get to. It's just in human nature to kind of leave that present moment. And for Dustin Johnson, it seems to come so easily to him. And I think in the beginning of his career, no one really understood him and how important that was to who he was as a golfer. I think now it's really apparent what a huge asset that is to Dustin Johnson, and how much players should be trying to achieve that kind of present state in their game.